अल्लाह होंगे इसी के अंदर. Okay. Hello, hello and welcome everyone. Now we are starting with the NCCP question. Now our strategy for the day is that I'm going to read out the entire question, and how we'll be going is I would request you all that I'm giving you 2 minutes to kindly open your ACCA's practice platform. All those who are sitting in front of me, if you don't have internet connectivity, please join my hotspot so that you can easily open this practice platform. All of you, please open your practice platform and select March June 2021 as the examination to be done. I'm repeating once again, I'm giving you 2 minutes. Join your practice platform right now and select March June 2021 March June 2021 as your practice question. All online students also do the same. Yes, please. Have you all opened? Kindly open the practice platform and select this paper as to be done. You all have this practice platform. You all have this practice platform in order to write and start your answer. Now, again, all these are instructions that you already know. So I'm moving forward with these instructions because, okay, so this is the examination that we have right now. Now, the most important thing over here is that there are two different tools that we'll be using. See, the first tool, the most important one, is the highlight tool, and the second one is the scratch pad. Now it's up to you. My suggestion would be that rather using scratch pad, what we can do is we can use this word processor in order to make our notings. Now, at the end of the day, when we are using this word processor in order to make the notings, or let's suppose in order to identify what we need to write, then you can again revert back and delete all what you have written on this word pad. Now, what I'm doing is I'm increasing the length of my screen, and I'm just trying to adjust my word processor on the right side or the left side. Or the second option that is available to you is that you can even use the scratch pad. Whatever suits you, it's the better way of identifying and noting down each and everything. So yes, scratch pad is basically something which you can write or keep on the top of your screen, or on the on the bottom or at the end of your screen. So it's up to you whether if you want to keep the scratch pad on the top or on the bottom. But I guess a better position of the scratch pad would be on the right side. Now you can minimize the scratch pad up to the extent of what I am showing you on the screen. One more thing, all the online student, is my screen visible to you? Is my screen visible to you? Okay, good. Okay, so now I'm moving forward. Right now in my watch, it's 1:48. We'll go exactly with the same timing that is available to us. And I'll try to make each and every question to be time barred. Right. Our strategy for the day will be how we are going to read the entire question first. I'll read it for you. You just need to be very much attentive. I'll show you where to highlight and what to highlight. And along with this, I'll show you what pointers should you note on your scratch pad. Now, you must be assuming that the scratch pad is way too small. It's okay if the scratch pad is way too small, and we don't need to see the scratch pad again and again right now. We'll be using the scratch pad option right at the end when we are going for the question or when we are writing with the question. So it's perfectly fine with the scratch pad. So the question begins in this way, that we have a question right now. I'll be reading the entire question, and what you need to do, you need to concentrate whatever I'm reading, whatever I'm highlighting. Same is the case. If you want, you can also replicate the same stuff in your exam practice platform. That is the reason I have asked you to please open the practice platform, so that you can also replicate the same lines, and you can also replicate the same highlighting options or the statements that I have highlighted. Number one. Number two is I'll give you first question to write, and then I'll also start writing the first question. Once we are done with the time of first question, we will stop. We are going to discuss the question that I have written in front of you. Then we'll move towards the second part. Then we'll do the same exercise again. Now, in this entire exercise, we are also going time barred. This means that we will be allocating time per question. However, we will not be able to complete the entire paper in 4 hours. So today's class will be a 6 hours class, and we need to have patience in order to learn. Remember, this is the most important class, because in this class you will learn how to attempt the further examination question in your exams or in your during your practice. So this is going to help you in clearing your exam very reliably. So let's just quickly start right now. I have asked a few students as well to join us today in our class. I hope so. If they respond me positively, these are those students who have achieved some good marks in the recent attempt. So if they respond me, I guess they are sleeping right now. So if they respond me quickly, I'll let you know, and we'll also share their experiences in regard with the SBL examination and how were they able to clear. So you can also ask some questions from them, right? So let's begin right now, and let's see what the question have to tell us all about. So the first thing is that we have got two different portions of the screen that is in front of you. The first portion of the screen is uh, where the exhibits are. So over here, I can easily assume that I have got 8 different exhibits. Now, 8 different exhibits, and we have got 4 different tasks. Each task is being depicted with the marks that is given at the end, and we have got 3 different options to read and write our answers. So this is how the entire work methodology is going to work. Once I have stopped the reading, I'll be giving you the first question to attempt, and I'll stop the screen, and I'll also start writing. Same will be the case with the other requirements as well. There are many sort of professional marks which are included in this examination, and this is one of the worst attempted question or in the history of SBL, during which the overall global result of SBL went to 45%. So this is an examination which is the worst attempted examination right now. So you can now easily assume that we have such examination questions available, and if we are going to go through this examination, we'll be in a better position to reliably move with the other part of the examination. So let's just quickly move forward. We have some tasks, we have some response options, and we have some exhibits. I'm moving in the same way, and I have kept my entire screen to look, or I have kept my entire screen only with the exam question in front of me, and also I have a scratch pad. So it says, now it's only me who is going to read. You are going to concentrate either on your computer screens or on the screen that I'm sharing with you, or in the form of projector. So you should assume that today's date is 15th of June. So the best part is that this is something to be highlighted. Now, many of you kept on asking me the question, so how should we assume regarding our date? So I'm making some of the pointers. It's not necessary to add the steric in front of your pointer, but still, if you want, you can add the pointer as well. So it says that you are assuming that today's date is 15th. Just a minute. तेज क्यों नहीं आता? हम्म हम्म Okay, so I have copied the most important information. Now, what you can do is you can even highlight it, but you don't need to highlight this portion. It's okay because it's easily readable. Right? The following excerpt. Yes, please. The following exhibit is available on the left hand side of the screen. Provide information relevant to the case study. Now, these are the information that has been given to you. An overview. It's better if you want to read this information or not. I'm not reading this information because it will be given in every single exhibit. So let's just quickly move forward and save time over here. This information should be used to answer the task within your chosen response option. So I have, yes, I have seen the response option, and now I can move forward. The scroll option gone. Okay, so now I'm moving towards the next part. Now over here it says about NCCP. We can increase the length of the screen. Overview वाला तो first था ना. Okay. Now let's just quickly start with this. So we have been given with this information of NCCP is a charity which was established 20 years ago. इसी से शुरू हो रहा है ना? कहाँ से शुरू हो रहा है? एक मिनट. नहीं. नहीं नहीं. First we are going to read the requirement. First we are going to read the requirement and then we'll move forward. Yes. First we'll be reading the requirement. Okay. So let's just start. Number one. The first option is that we are going to read the requirement and then we'll start with the overview. The executive board has been concerned about negative coverage about NCCP in the local press. So there have been some negative coverage about NCCP in the local press, as well as feedback from staff and volunteers expressing concern about the direction the charity is taking. It is therefore seeking advice from you as to the most appropriate way forward. Prepare a report for the presentation of the board which assesses NCCP's internal and external stakeholders and recommends appropriate way of managing them. Which sort of model do you think is very good? Mendelow's matrix or the power model? It seems that this model is going to apply. We are not sure right now, but it seems that after reading this, it seems that we are going to apply the power model or the Mendelow's matrix model. Again it says assesses internal and external. uh, it's same Mendelow's matrix model or power matrix model is same. Now assesses NCCP's internal and external. Say professional skill marks are available for demonstrating analysis skills. So we will be demonstrating the analysis skill in this paper. Good. We are going to go with the analysis skill. And now, see, professional skill marks are available for demonstrating analysis skill. You are going to have a full stop right now. In carefully considering how different stakeholders can be most appropriately managed. So there are two different parts of every single question. that we are going to go through. We will be demonstrating the analysis skill over here. Is it clear? Is it clear to everyone? Critically assess NCCP sources of competitive advantage. Critically assess NCCP's sources of competitive advantage. What do you think? Which topic should it relate to? It's just an educated guess what we are doing. We might be wrong. Yes, please. What do you think? Which topic should it relate to? Don't you think that this topic is relating to somewhat the CSF and KPIs because they are going for the competitive advantages? Maybe we might be using some CSF and KPIs information in this. So let's see if it is true or not. Professional skill marks are available for demonstrating evaluation skill, full stop. In assessing, we need to give the evaluation skills, number one, and then in assessing NCCP's most important source of competitive advantage. So I guess that it might relate to the CSF and KPI. So we are in a very safe hand right now. I think we are identifying the models or the topics correctly. Let's just move forward. The new CEO is concerned that the executive board is not being sufficiently proactive in managing risk and implementing control, and is therefore neglecting its duties towards NCCP stakeholder. He has put risk management at the top of the agenda for the next executive board minute or meeting and has asked you to help him to prepare for the meeting. Prepare a briefing note for the CEO to share with the board, which evaluate executive board's approach to risk management and recommend and recommend. There are two different requirements, and this means you need to evaluate the current risk management strategies and recommendation of improvement. This means there are current control but are ineffective. So first column or first part of the scenario will be the ineffective controls, and the second part of the scenario is the recommendation. So there are 12 marks. It means that we are going to write three column, either three column or in paragraph as well. It's up to you. It's up to you. You can even write in two different paragraphs. Sorry, two columns or paragraph. Now, if we are being asked to write two columns, how many marks will we be gaining for? 3 marks per point. Per point means that one single pointer, including into these two columns, will help us in gaining three different marks. So 3 marks for this, and there are 15 marks overall for this question. So how many pointers should you write? Five. At least 5 pointers should be present over there. So yes, this is how we are going to go through this. Um, Professional skill marks are available for demonstrating communication skill. Full stop. Now, what you know what communication will look like? Communication means that we are going to communicate in a way in which we will be identifying why is it the case, why is it the case that the implemented policies from the management are ineffective. You need to justify. For example, if I say that in the monitoring room the cameras are the monitoring room is being established by the company, but there is no one monitoring the screens, this can pose a significant threat of fraud, threat of misappropriation, threat of assets being taken from the company. And if you are recommending a control, you'll say that we should hire a proper staff who is looking after the monitoring scheme so that we can, at the end of the day, have a good impact in this regard. So your communication skills should be very much justifiable. Is it clear to everyone? Okay. So evaluate the executive board's risk management and recommend how it could be improved. Professional marks are available for demonstrating communication skill, full stop, in adopting an appropriate tone which is easily understood by the board member. So your answer should be easy, not with professional jargons, only understood by the auditors, or not with professional jargons, only understood by some of the specialists within the accounting, within the organization. Yes, please. Okay. So the next part of the question is identify the external stakeholder with an interest in NCCP's internal control and justify why this information on the internal control should be shared with them. Now, this is a question which I guess is a generic one because it does not seem like any model to be applied. Or do you feel like any model can be applied on this? If you can assume any sort of model over here in part B. Should I read once again? Identify the external. Yes, all online students can also contribute. Identify the external stakeholder with an interest in NCCP, internal control, and justify why information on internal control should be shared with them. It's basically the internal control. It's basically why we are talking about the internal control and why should we share this information with the external stakeholder. So it seems that we are going to write a generic. अच्छा चलो ठीक है good. Let's see. Let's after reading the case study, you'll get to know that Mendo matrix model will not be applied. Okay, professional skill marks are available for demonstrating communication skill. Again, communication skill in using compelling and and logical argument. I don't know what type of logical argument will he be asking for. I'm totally unaware of what type of logical argument will he be going for, but let's see. Compelling and logical argument to justify why information on internal control should be shared externally. Why information on, I guess this somewhat relates to the audit report. I guess this somewhat relates to the internal control. Why should we give the information on internal controls to the external stakeholders? So let's see. But I'm not aware of any sort of model. This can be a situation in exam as well. Right. So I don't feel like that there is any sort of model that I can identify before getting into the case study. It's okay, equally justifiable, something good to go with. We can move forward. All online students, kindly please be attentive and all your eyes on the screen. The CEO is keen to implement his new premium priced art course. However, in the light of conflict with other stakeholders, he has asked you to provide an independent perspective on his proposal. Prepare a report for the CEO which assesses the viability of the current range of courses offered by NCCP. Evaluate the CEO proposal to offer new art course. Professional skill marks are available for demonstrating skepticism skill in probing deeply into the underlying issues related to the CEO's proposal. SFA model. Okay, good. Let's see if we are correct or not. Let's hold on for a few minutes and let's see if we are correct or not. So he's saying that we will be applying SFA model. समझ नहीं आ रहा. Okay. Okay. Then if I move on. So what is the meaning of assess? I can understand analyze. Assess means to basically identify. Assess is also something that relates to analysis. Assess is also the same as analysis. The CEO is concerned about NCCP's exposure to cybersecurity risk and has instructed the operation director to both sponsor and manage a project, to both sponsor and manage a project, to both sponsor and manage a project. Why am I getting an intimation that it might go towards PID? To improve the cybersecurity at NCCP. The operation director has limited experience of cybersecurity and has asked you to help to prepare a response to the CEO which justify why he should be the project sponsor, but not also the project manager. So a person who is a project sponsor and a project manager will give him excessive power to make the project go into the self-interest point of view. A small amount of ethics is also tested, and somewhat the corporate governance areas are also being identified over. Draft a section of the report. Now, whenever you are drafting the section of the report, you are going to write on the top that it's not a complete report, it's the section, and you are not going to conclude it. Right? Is it clear? Draft a section of the report to present to the board which explain the need for the cyber security at NCCP and recommend action the board should take to meet the cyber security responsibility. I don't know how you guys are going to go through this question. Professional skill marks are available for demonstrating commercial acumen skills in highlighting the key benefit to NCCP of cybersecurity and recommending practical action the board should take. Yes. What do you think? Is there any specific model applying over here? Yes or no? Okay. So we are not aware of any specific model. So let's see. Okay. So good to go with this. Uh, draft an email on behalf of the operation director to send to the CEO. Just a minute. Okay. So it says draft an email on behalf of the operation director to send to the CEO on behalf of the operation director. Now your to and from is going to change, which explain why it would be appropriate for him to be the project sponsor, but not both the project sponsor and project manager for the cyber security project. So there are two different requirements, but it seems the same, right? Is it the case? There are two different requirements, but what do you think? What will we be writing in the first requirement? I'm repeating once again. Draft the section of a report to present to the board which explain the need for cyber security and recommended action the board should take to meet the cyber security responsibility. So two parts in the first requirement and the other two parts in the second one. In the second requirement, you will write that I should be the sponsor but not the manager because it is going to pose excessive amount of responsibility on my shoulders. So these are the four different parts that you are going to write. Uska. Okay. Then if I move forward, now we can start with the overview of the case. Okay, so it says NCCP is a charity which was established 20 years ago. So it is a charity based organization which was established 20 years ago. Its mission is to promote well-being and bring about positive personal and social change through education and increased community participation. This is something this is something which is important. Why is it important? Because of the fact this is something which is important because this basically is letting us know about the organization's viewpoint or the organization's mission statement. Is it clear to everyone? Okay. Kevili is a vibrant city of 500,000 people. So there are 500,000 people. This means it might show us the potential demand. Highlight का कोई shortcut है? Highlight करना. In the country of Thailand, North Kevili is an economically and socially deprived part. So it is an economically and socially deprived part of Kivil. NCCP was made possible through NCCP was made possible through a generous donation from Richard Tempest. So you know NCCP is a charitable organization, and NCCP was made possible because of the generous donation given by Richard Tempest, a business entrepreneur who grew up in North Tivoli and retained close link to the community. Richard's initial donation was used to purchase a large building in North Tivoli and develop it for community education and social events. So this is an information which I guess is something which is important and we will be using this. Sorry. Now, नहीं तो जाहिर है, लेकिन पढ़ूंगा तो पूरा ना, साथ साथ ही होगा ना. नहीं हो रहा ना, नहीं हो रही. होता है. Richard established an executive board of 4 members comprising. No, this is an information which we can use in a question which might relate to the Richard's requirement. Richard established an executive board of 4 members comprising of chief executive officer, finance director, marketing director, operational director. There is also a board of trustee to oversee the NCCP. What intimation are you getting right now? That there is a board or comprising of 2 tier. There is a 2 tier board as well, isn't it? It seems that there might be 2 tier board operating in the Richard's office, of which Richard was a member until he retired, as well as offering a place for local people to meet and socialize. NCCP offered 4 part-time courses: computer for beginners, website design, finding a job, and business skills. So these are the 4 part-time courses that this company is also offering. Now, what am I highlighting and what am I writing on the scratchpad option? There are two things that we need to account for right now. What am I highlighting? I'm basically highlighting all those areas which I guess is important, but I will not be utilizing or I will not be reverting back when I'm writing the answer. And whatever I'm writing on the scratchpad or on Microsoft Word, that is up to on my own educated guess. I feel that I might have to use that information while writing the answer to the question. So this is how you are going to, you need to be very much decisive in your pick. Is it clear to everyone? Okay. Where relevant, the course include a certificate of completion to provide participants with evidence to support job application. This course are also of interest to those seeking an opportunity for social interaction. All participants pay a course fee which is heavily subsidized. All participants pay a course fee which is heavily subsidized up to the content of these courses and has remained largely unchanged since they were set up. So it has been unchanged since they were set up, and they have been heavily subsidized by the government as well. Oh, sorry, by Richard as well. So this is also something which is important, so we can highlight it. Again, Richard continued to make the substantial donation. Richard continued to make the substantial donation. Okay, so Richard continued to make the substantial donation to NCCP until his retirement 5 years ago. Since then, the executive board has tried to seek out other sources of funding and now relies heavily on Kivili Council, which provide financial support for job-related training. Okay, this is a very, very important information which I feel and I should write it on my scratch pad option. Then, however, this funding has not been sufficient to prevent NCCP from continuing to have financial difficulties. Cash reserves are, and the board of trustee is concerned that this position is not suitable. Sorry, this position is not sustainable. 6 months ago, in December 2004, the board of trustees persuaded the existing CEO, Peter Chen, to retire. A replacement, Philip Allen, PA, was appointed and started in March 2005. Unlike Mr. Chen, Mr. Allen has extensive commercial experience, and the trustee hope that they will help to address that this will help to address NCCP's financial difficulties. However, some trustees expressed concern that the new CEO commercial background might conflict with the NCCP's charitable option. So I guess this is an information to be highlighted because it may be answered in your question. They might ask you something relating to this. Sorry, no. But it's up to you. There's no hard and fast rule if you want to keep it on Scratchpad. But on Scratchpad, I'm keeping all those factors that I think I will be using, or I'll be copy pasting some of the requirements, some of the answers from these areas, or I might use, or I might have to see these pointers while writing my answers. So I guess this is something which is a risk, but not as significant as it should go into the Scratchpad option. You are a management consultant, so that was something which we were thinking, what is our requirement? So now this is something which I guess is very much prominent throughout the requirement. Now, four things in every requirement. We have a four way finding strategy or four-way strategy. The first thing is whom you are. So for the entire paper, you are the external consultant. You are the external, so you're the management consultant. So this means that you are the management consultant who is appointed by the, so you are a person who is working within the company, not external. I was wrong. You are the person who is working within the company, not the external person. You are management consultant who is appointed by the executive board to provide independent advice to help to address the difficulties that NCCP is facing. You are a management consultant appointed by executive board to provide independent advice, but you are being hired by the management, not by non-executive directors, but by the executive director. See, I am an internal auditor. Everyone says that you are going to provide an independent report. However, I am being hired by the executive directors. So why is there a need of external auditors? See, there is no point of concern over here to either to identify if they are going to provide an independent report or not. Obviously, if we are writing the answer, we'll try our level best to provide an independent review. But the fact is, the two important factors. See, this was a mistake that many students and even the examiners have also addressed. When he said that you should provide an independent report, it means that you should look like an independent person. But the fact is that whom is hiring you? Who is the person who is hiring you right now? You are being hired by an executive board, not by a non-executive board. So if you are being hired by an executive board, then you are a management consultant, a consultant hired by the management, and that is the executive board. Is it clear to everyone? क्यों एक्सटर्नल होता है, इंटरनल भी होता है, पेरोल पे भी होते हैं कंसल्टेंट्स. कंप्लायंस डिपार्टमेंट नहीं होता. कंप्लायंस डिपार्टमेंट कौन होता है? लीगल डिपार्टमेंट. They all are individuals from outside the organization, but they are hired on the payroll of organization. Normally, they are management consultants, right? Every organization, they try to hire management consultants for the making of their own strategies as well. It is not necessary that the management consultant are always the external individuals. Okay, so I guess this is something which we have all done, and it's a very good overview being given by the examiner himself. So if I move forward, I don't know why this is so light. Let's see. Moving forward, NC is well known. Okay, now we have been given with the information about the NCCP. So it says that NCCP, now we have been given with the information regarding the NCCP, and over here it's saying, just a minute. Okay, so over here it says North Kivili is well known for his high level of unemployment, with the inevitable economic and social result that follow. So something which is important. Having grown up in NC, Richard Tempest set up his own highly successful company. He felt that the North Kivili community was neglected by government, and through NCCP provided opportunity for the personal and community growth, with a particular focus on training to gain employment. So it seems that this charity's objective is to provide employment opportunity, training opportunity to the individuals who are jobless. Is it true? Am I getting the right understanding of this question? Okay. Courses that we offer. Education has always been in the heart of NCCP's mission. All of our courses are available at various times throughout the year. The cost to you of a course is lower thanks to council funding and the contribution of generous donors. Computer for beginners, places available. If you are looking for the basic instruction in how to use the computer, this is the course for you. This was the first course offered when NCCP was opened. It was the first course. Again, the basic primary aim or the basic primary course that we initiated with was the computer course. Website design full, no place currently available. The course will help you to design, build, and maintain your own website. It is appropriate if you have a product, a service, or an interest to publicize. Finding a job, full, no place currently available. This course will help you to prevent yourself effectively to potential employers, both in writing your own CV and in an interview. Business skills, places available. This course is ideal for you. This course is ideal if you want to develop your business skills. It is specially suitable if you are self-employed and looking to start on your own business. Now, tell me one thing. What do you mean by no course available? Sorry, no place available and places available. It does not. Now, if you look at the examiner's comment, many of the students thought that no place available means that these courses are not being offered, and places available meant that these courses are being offered. That is the examiner's comment. I don't know how, but student got this intimation that no place available means that these courses are not being offered. So they started giving a suggestion, okay, you should offer these courses. NCCP should start doing with this course. As you have drafted this course, as you know how the course is going to work. Come on, yeah. Yes, it means seats are full or seats are not. For the current tenure, the seats are full. So again, some of the most blunderous exercises that student can do is that he was thinking that no places available means that this course is not physically offered anywhere by NCCP, and it is in the mission of NCCP that they are going to offer in near future. A reason of failing, right? समझा भी ना. Time barred will be when you are writing, not when I'm reading. Okay. Okay. Moving forward. Working with us. Now, this is an important information, but I cannot copy from it. However, this information can always be reverted back. So I'll be remembering the exhibit number 2 in order to revert back to this information. Staff CCP fall into two categories. Okay. Paid employees and unpaid volunteers. NCCP organization structure: executive directors, 4 directors, sorry, a finance director, 4 employees, marketing director, 3 employees, operational director, 5 employees. So this is the information that has been given to us, alongside 4 directors and 12 paid employees. So this means how many employees do we have? So I was assuming that 4 employees included the finance side, but my assumption was wrong, right? So this is how you are going to tune up things. So there are 12 people as an employment and 4 people including as tutorial level position. So this industry is about charity. Am I correct? Okay. A charity which is not a conventional one, a non-conventional charity, which is who is going to be regarded as the charity relating to the education, job searches, free courses, and such of it. In a country where the employment rate is extremely low, where the unemployment rate is extremely high, right? Alongside the 4 directors and 12 paid employees, each department benefit from the work and unpaid volunteers who are not shown in the organizational chart. What do you mean by this? We have some, yes, we have some unpaid employees there who are known as the volunteers, and I'm not showing them on the organizational chart. We could not manage without the support of our wonderful volunteers. Almost all of our courses are taught by paid freelance tutor. Now, why is he giving us this information? So that you can keep them into different categories of stakeholders. Paid teachers, Paid tutors, expectation will be different. Volunteers, expectations will be different. Even from them and their expectation from our organization as well. There are two different categories of stakeholders, one falling more in terms of power, the other falling less in terms of power, one falling more in terms of interest, the others falling less in terms of interest. So we'll look into this good sense of information given by the examiner. Now see, it seems to be a difficult question because we are trying to justify each and every line and we are trying to identify, okay, what or how we are going to go through it. Now let's look. Now we need to have a very close analysis of all these figures. Nccp's annual performance data for year ending 31st of March. Income 2003, 4, 5. Council funding. So the council funding seems to be decreasing in the forthcoming year. Is it true? So what I should do when I see a decreasing figure, can anyone explain? Which color should I use? Good. Whenever I'm going to see a decreasing figure, I will be using, I don't have a red color, so it's okay. Red nahi hai. Green will be for good figures, right? So I'll be using, koi baat. Then it says corporate donation. Corporate donation have also decreased, and in 2004, acha, when comparing, you are going to compare with the previous year. So what I'm doing is I'm highlighting the increased figure with the green, although it might look that it is time consuming, but trust me, this is going to help you in identifying and picking up the answers while doing your examination. Personal donation 38, 36, and again personal donation is also in a declining situation, so we are going to highlight it with an astonishing color, that is pink. We don't have a red color, I don't know why they have not given you the red color. Course fee 257, 490. So there has been an inflation effect in course fee as well. And now see, this is something which looks as if this is increasing, but the course fee is for a volunteer organization or for a trustee based organization is a deteriorating situation when we are increasing from the point of view of stakeholders, right? So the course fee is also decreasing, and I'm highlighting it with the same orange. See, this is course fee is increasing, but it will have an adverse effect on our number of individuals who would want to take our course. If this course fee is being paid by them, if it is being donated or being sponsored, then the case will be different. नहीं बढ़ेंगे कैसे बढ़ेंगे course fee is increasing. Course fee was 457 in 2003. Now it's 491. It's basically the course fee, not the total amount of revenue that is being received from the fee. It means that how much fees do we receive from the course. Now, okay, we might go for note number 4. Yes, the suggestion is that okay, if it may be a situation where the number of individuals are increasing, and that is the reason the course fee is also increasing. So we'll look into this once again, but let's just keep the highlighted figure to be red, or the color that I've chosen, and we'll move forward and see that if the situation is vice versa or not. So it says the total income have increased, which is a positive situation. Although the total income over here decreased for 2004, but the total income is increasing in 2005, and in fact the total income is highest in the last year. Less total expenditure, the total expenditure is also increasing. Now it might have an inflationary effect, or there might be other factors as well. So let's just highlight the total expenditure over here. And again, at the end of the day, we are at a loss. Remember, a charitable or a club based organizations are not making the conventional profit and loss account, rather, they make the income and expenditure account. Surplus or deficit is the end result of income and expenditure account, right? So we are now well aware of the pointers over here. Let's just quickly move forward. We right now we need to look at the course fee, and we need to decide if it is a positive figure or a negative figure. Note number one, council funding. It states that funding from Kivile Council is expected to fall significantly in the coming year due to a reduction in funding from central government. Now, this statement is something which is very important for us, and we might use this statement in our answer. Sorry, commentary. It says although NCCP, मुझे नजर ही नहीं आता है. Although NCCP has no long-term debt, its cash reserves are now down to 84,000. Its main, sorry, 48,000. Its main asset in the building itself, which it owns outright and is worth $1.8 million. So it says that 48,000 reserves are now available in our cash reserve, and which means that our reserves are declining. Plus, along with this, our net asset, that is the main building, is of worth of 1.8 million. The council attaches specific condition to the funding, which change from year to year. From 2004 onwards, the funding has been conditional on NCCP's running a business skill course. So this is something which is very important. This is something which is very important. It says that the council, it says that the council funding, and I'm also going to copy paste this for my further reference. Okay, moving forward, it says as of the council initiative to encourage people to develop business skills. The council also require NCCP to encourage individuals to develop IT skills, which will support them in the modern business environment. The council has indicated that further funding will be conditional on NCCPs demonstrating appropriate internal controls to make the best use of the money that is being provided to them. Now remember, although it takes more time when I'm reading in front of you and I'm explaining, but when you are doing it on your own, trust me over the fact that it will take only 1 hour to complete the entire reading and reflection time. Corporate donation. The average corporate donation in 2005 was $47,000. All corporate donors are based in Kivile, and many have a long-standing relationship with NCC, which date back to Richard Tempest time. These corporate donors who were approached on a personal basis are friends and colleagues of the trustee or executive director. So we have good corporate donors available, but again, the corporate donors are being donating in our company or the trust because of the old relationship with the Richard Tempest. And initially, it says in 2005, the corporate donation was 47,000. So I guess this is the only thing that increased, right? Corporate donation was increasing or not? In 2005, this is the only thing that increased in the entire financial information. Personal donation. Now, this is something important. Uh, The average personal donation in 2005 was $24. Personal donation come mainly from members of the North Cavalier local community, but also from other individuals in Cavalier who do not use NCCP service but also want to support its mission. Following a series of media reports about international charities that misappropriated funds, corporate and personal donors are taking a keener interest in how charities are being run and how any donation are being used. So this is an alarming situation. We might have to give a better understanding on our learning methodology to the external. And this is the reason why he was asking you a question. Why should you tell the external stakeholder about your internal control and its effectiveness? Right? Note number 4, course fee. Course fee are payable by participant who attend the course. The fee per course has not increased. This means that the total revenue is increasing and the fee per course is not. So we'll go revert back to the previous requirement, to the previous exhibit, and we'll change the color for highlighting increase in the past 3 years. Good. बंदे ज्यादा है तो ऊपर वाले में खाली भी तो था उसमें बढ़ गए हो Okay, so I am highlighting this with green color. See, this is something which I'm going to use and an information which is important while me doing the actual answer. Okay, let's look at some of the numbers of NCCP. Number of course booking in 2003, 2004 and 2005. Computers for beginners 1800, 1400 and 1100. Computers for beginners is deteriorating or the situation is declining right now. Now remember, it's the number of course, not the revenue. Website design. Website design 8,640, 9,360. So website designing courses are increasing. Again, if you want, you can highlight it with green and highlight the above one with the yellow or red. Finding a job, that is 5,760, 5,400 and 5,600 courses. Business skill in 2003, it was not applicable. Why is it not applicable in 2003? Because this condition was applied once the funding, once the corporate funding stopped, and they kept a condition that until unless you're not going to introduce such a course, we will not be donating. So this condition came into existence in 2004 and was not there in 2003. So 2004 and 2003, we will be offering such courses. Sorry, 2004 and 2005, we will be offering such courses. So total number of courses are also given. Average subsidy per course. So computers for beginners, our subsidy is increasing, but the number of courses are not increasing. Again, the website design, our subsidy is totally constant, and the number of courses are increasing. Finding a job, we have negative subsidy. This means that we are not charging, or we are charging for the other courses from these individuals. That is the finding a job. And business skill. Now, the biggest amount of subsidy that we could give in the history of this trust is being given in this. Why are we giving such a huge amount? Because of the condition, and in order to justify those donors that the amount of money that you are investing is being invested in the course that you requested or the condition that you have implemented on our trust. We might be taking this 5 rupees from other courses, or we might take 5 rupees from these individuals in order to subsidize the other courses. We are getting extra money from these individuals to subsidize the other portion of the courses. average subsidy per course is 4, 6, and 6. So average subsidy remains 6 for 2004 and 5. The subsidy per course booking is calculated by deducting course cost from course fee and dividing it by the number of booking. A positive figure in the table demonstrates that the course does not generate enough income to cover its cost. And so NCCP use its funding to subsidize the course. This means that the course that we are selling, if the figure is positive, then we are giving a subsidy to those courses. It means that if the course is of $10 and we have written $3 subsidy, so the course cost to the external students will be of $7. Clear to everyone? Then a negative figure demonstrates a surplus of income. This means that if the course is of $10 and we are giving it of $13, so -3 means we are charging extra money from them and maybe donating that amount of money to other courses. So it says a negative figure demonstrates a surplus of income over expenditure generated by the course. The finding a job is led by volunteers and therefore generate a surplus fund. Okay. So over here, the costing model help us in generating the surplus because we have volunteers and they are not charging any sort of money. And in the all the above courses, there were tutors who were charging the money. So in finding the job option, we have extra income or we have income over expenditure. We have five rupees of $5 of income over expenditure, which we might use for other course subsidy. Clear to everyone? Okay. Let's just quickly move towards the fifth part, that is the risk management strategy. From Tom TT, Operation Director, PA, Chief Executive Officer, Executive Board Approach to Risk Management, 15th of May 2005. Following our conversation about risk management, I have put together some notes about NCCP's risk management. Okay, good to know this. It says following our conversation about risk management, I have put together some notes about NCCP's risk management. The executive board has always been reluctant to get involved directly in risk management. Instead, operational staff are expected to deal with risk as they arise using their experience where appropriate. However, in 2004, the Board of Trustee formally instructed us, the Executive Board, to prepare a risk register for NCCP. This was the first time we had undertaking such an exercise. In response, we arranged an all-day meeting which generated a list of all potential risks that NCCP faced. All relevant risk categories, strategic. Now tell me one thing, if you would not have gone through the technical knowledge, will you be in a position to identify what strategic risk means? It says strategic, operational, and financial and legal. So the 4 categories of risk are addressed in this scenario, were considered where appropriate. Key operational members of the staff were consulted. This activity generated a list of over 150 risks, but they are not going to show 150 risks. Risks were then allocated to different board members in line with the trustee instruction. All these risks were then recorded in the risk register. Members were responsible for deciding an appropriate action and implementing them prior to the next scheduled board meeting 2 weeks later. A brief extract to the a brief extract of the completed risk register is included here. Now tell me one thing. Can you identify a one-on-one requirement relating to this exhibit? Okay. So what do we need to do? I'm giving you 1 minute. Go back to the requirement, read it once again, and then I'll start reading the risk register. Yes, please. All students kindly go back to the requirement. It was task number 2. Revert to task number 2, read the requirement and let me know what the requirement is. Can anyone please read loudly in front of me? So this means that we need to evaluate the already applied or already suggested risk and need to identify if these risks are being dealt appropriately or not. So first we'll be evaluating the risks that are being suggested, and if they are not being appropriately applied, we will give some control measures or we'll give some alternatives, right? So let's look at this. Risk, loss of council funding. Council funding could be lost if NCCP does not meet relevant conditions. Board members responsible, operating director, action required, operational department staff to review council funding criteria. सही है? Okay. Just hold on your suggestions for a minute and let me read first. We'll decide once we start writing. But do you get, is this suggestion correct? Yes, please. They are asking, okay, I'm giving you the suggestion once again. It says operational department staff to review the criteria of funding. Is this suggestion correct? No, sir. How come this suggestion is not correct? Because they are having the operational department to be involved in the strategic models. Operational department are being involved in the strategic model because it says that you need to find out the council donation is reducing and ask the operational staff to review the council donation and their strategies in this regard. So I don't think so that's correct, but let's move forward. Let's see, once we start writing, we'll identify what to write and how to go on with this requirement. Action implemented, council funding criteria reviewed, NCCP is compliant. Action implemented, council funding criteria is reviewed, NCCP is compliant. Is this a good control? Is this a control that should be applied? Over here it says that basically the criteria has been reviewed and we are compliant to the criteria. We hope that in near future the council funding is going to increase. Rather than increasing the council fund, rather than asking the council to fund us more, we are saying that we are compliant and just keep quiet, stay back, and we assume that the council is going to see that this condition is being applied and we are going to get the required amount of funds that we require. So let's see. I hope so. You can easily identify the flaw in this. Freelance tutor missing a course. Freelance tutor missing a course. If freelance tutor does not attend, the course cannot run. Operational director is held responsible. Operations staff to liaise with the tutor. Tell me one thing. If let's suppose the day-to-day operational staff at Tabani School of Accountancy, the IT individual, if I'm a freelancer who is teaching SBL in let's suppose in zero cost, and if today's class, if I miss today's class, will the IT individual be in a position to teach you the entire NCCP question. So they are asking the operational staff to conduct the course rather than the freelance tutor. Is this what the understanding is? The operational staff to create a legend with the tutor. Tutor told importance of punctuality. We have been telling the tutor that how punctual you should be. Rather, a better suggestion would have been that the more freelance tutors can be hired in this, because freelance tutor are free of cost. Again, the completed risk register, including relevant action, was then signed off by the executive board and presented to the trustee. All trustee request, the executive board has agreed to consider repeating this process at some point in the future. This means that the trustee wants you all to repeat this process. Cyber security risk. Now, this was also another main question asked in the same requirement. In our conversation, you also refer to the recent news report about large organizations which have been victims of cybersecurity. Although I take your point that hackers could inflict considerable damage. NCCP's small size and charitable status means that it is highly unlikely to become a victim. Nevertheless, I had put cybersecurity control in place in 2004 following the risk register exercise above. NCCP system can only be accessed by a member of the staff with a valid password. There is now a robust process in place to ensure that members of the staff are only given access to the part of the system they need, and password for the staff who are leaving are revoked on the final day. So there is a cybersecurity risk. Do you think this control seems to be justifiable? This means that you are giving password to an individual and you are taking them the password back once they leave or once they resign from the job. I hope this helped to clarify your current position. Kind regards from TT, the operational director. Okay, let's move to the next exhibit. Now you can see these are very small exhibits and they can easily be read within 1 hour time span, right? Because of the fact that I'm explaining in between, I'm doing other stuff as well. So it might take some time extra from my side, but from your side, it should only take 1 hour to read and reflect it appropriately. A consultant, Phillips Allen, CEO, new course opportunity, 31st of May 2005. Hi. Since starting at NCCP, I have been astonished at how my plans to make this organization financially viable are being criticized. I'm particularly frustrated that my plans to increase the revenue by offering new courses are being resisted. In order to find a suitable way forward, I have agreed to seek advice from you as an independent consultant. I am convinced that there is a gap in the market for art courses. बात कुछ हो रही है, now he's bringing the art courses in between. Why such courses are available elsewhere? My courses will be run by highly skilled artists who will educate people about the science and history of the art, and also teach them practical skills such as how to develop their own painting technique. Such a course will be targeted at wealthier, intelligent students. Now, can you see the conversation that is going on? Does it looks like a trustee organization? And you must have gone through a previous exhibit in which it said that I am concerned that CEO's objective is moreover towards commercial world rather than towards a philanthropist organization. Again, it says such a course will be targeted at wealthier, intelligent students. There is a scope to charge a considerable premium for these courses, and the surplus can be used to subsidize the NCCP other courses. So this means that he is of the view the course would run on weekend. I know that this is a busy time for NCCP, but it's the most convenient time for a target participant or market. As I have a passion for art and painting, you can see his self-interest is being showcased, portrayed in such a situation. So as I have a passion for art and painting, I have been able to put together the entire proposal by myself. Everything is being done by he himself. I have a good friend who is an accomplished artist and will therefore design the course and deliver it. Now, there is no protocol of hiring the individuals. There is no acceptability from other stakeholders' point of view. No course acceptability. We are just trying. He's just trying to impose, or he's just trying to impose that specific course into our other course outline, bringing his own friend who he himself thinks is a very good artist and he's a very good tutor and he can plan the course very well. Again, uh, I have a very good friend who is an accomplished artist and therefore design the course and deliver it, unlike other freelance tutors. So now he's criticizing the other freelance tutors as well. NCCP will pay him for designing the course, but in return, NCCP will retain the copyright on the material. The initial cost of designing the course book will be $12,000. Each course will generate a profit of $1,040 with breaks which break down as follows, assuming 20 participants. Revenue of 125 multiplied by 20 participants is 2,500. Tutor fees, art material, course books, and total cost and profit per course. Right? One thing is that is not including the fixed cost in this course. Yes, it might be an unrealistic assumption. Copyright cost, sunk cost. So he is ignorant of these costs as well. Right? The course will run monthly and generate an annual profit of $12,480. The art material and the course cost assume that we purchase a year worth of each in advance to take advantage of bulk purchase discount. We are hoarding the amount of money in buying a stuff for the participant for which we are assuming, and we might have faced some uh, from shortages, as well as we might, even though we don't have a surplus amount of fund available in our company, we are going in deficit, and trustee organization going in deficit is going for a bulk quantity discount. So the strategy seems to be totally unjustifiable. I trust you agree that this is a profitable and an attractive opportunity for NCCP. I look forward of hearing from you. All the best, Philip. Ellen. Let's move towards the newspaper article. Now you all must be getting an idea that SBL exam is not as difficult as we think. And secondly, you are all are getting an idea that this examination was first attempted, but maybe mainly because of some of the blunders from the students' point of view, and some of basic blunders or kiddish blunders that they have done. So let's move forward. The the CE Monday, 1st of June 2005. So it came after the month of May. Obviously, the previous exhibit was for the month of May. Has NCCP lost its way? The question statement starts in a very negative form. The recent appointment of PA as the new chief executive of NCCP has been a source of controversy across the city. NCCP used to be a very respected, well respected in Kavili for its good value courses and lively social environment, both of which were designed to support disadvantaged members of North Kavili community. So you can use such words. They can use a word of poor customer, they can use a word of underdeveloped customer, but they use this word of advantaged members. This means poor individual, right? Again, however, faced with the dramatic shortfall in funding, Mr. Allen has revealed plans to launch premium courses which would charge significantly higher price to those attending. The first premium course are understood to be on the subject of art. Mr. Allen points out that they will provide much needed funding for NCC. Mr. Allen has also confirmed the plans to review the full range of existing courses. This has caused concern that current course participants will not be able to afford NCCP courses in future. A spokesperson for Kivali Council noted that NCCP funding for the coming years was currently under review and advised that it would be cut if it felt that NCCP's agenda is not consistent with the Council's priority. So, something which is important. Mr. N was also asked whether NCCP was concerned following the recent cyber attack on the Children Trust TCT, another small charity in Kibli. TCT IT system were destroyed by a hacker and the charity has ceased to operate. Mr. Allen declined the comment. बहुत खराब है. Right? Moving forward, I'm moving towards the last case study. It says, this year, survey was issued on to staff on 1st of June 2005 and the result have been made available. It was given to all NCCP staff, both paid employees and unpaid volunteers, as in previous year, a response rate of over 90% was achieved. Representative comments are included next to each question. How? Now, which form of information are they giving you? They are giving you the key performance indicators and critical success factors. How happy are you at work at NCCP? This is the this is the critical success factor and key performance indicator states how many of them are happy, how many of them are neutral, and how many of them are unhappy. So the employee are no more happy in 2005. The deteriorating situation. Some of them say that we are neutral and that also have increased. Do you feel valued and respected at work? Again, a very deteriorating situation for that. Let's read out some comments. I used to love volunteering at NCCB because I felt I could make a difference to the people who really needed help. I don't feel that any longer and am seriously thinking about leaving. Do you see yourself working here in 1 year? So it has also declined for around 50%, and people are not happy. And how effective do you think your department is fulfilling the NCCP's mission. Although there has been slight deterioration in these figures, but yes, there is some deterioration. I no longer have the freedom to make my own decision, but indeed have to ask permission from a manager who knows less about the situation than I do. How effective do you think the executive board is in fulfilling NCCP's mission? Oh my God, this situation have decreased to 0% total loss of confidence on the board. It means that the current situation of our government as well shows a total loss of confidence on the political system. NCCP. This means that the board is not effectively working or effectively monitoring the entire control and risk management and all other operational policies. NCCP has changed a lot in the past few months and is no longer a piece I enjoy working for. Neutral individuals and ineffective individuals are 88. So individuals saying that 88% individuals are of the view that NCCP board is totally ineffective. नासूर हो चुका है. All of us in the team knows our job really well and work well together. All we need is to be left to do our work. This means that there have been more interventions of the board rather than the operational staff being given, let's suppose, a voluntary impact or being given the opportunity to make decisions on their own. We need to, we need is to be left to do our work without senior managers interfering. The new art courses will bring in people who don't need NCCP's help and push out to those who do. Now, one thing, it means that the commercial impact of the NCCP is being indulged with the philanthropist. So basically, we are merging in current situation. What I am assuming, we are merging two different types of impacts all together in a situation. And what we are trying to do when we are merging them, it basically gives one part of the stakeholders community an objective to learn from a premium based institute, and the other, the most important part of the community or the stakeholders community is deprived and is of the view that no NCCP is no more an effective place for the trust or philanthropist viewpoint. Is it clear to everyone? Okay. So now comes your part. Now you guys are going to uh, have an impact. What I would want from you all is, what I would want from you all is that you are going to attempt the part A of NCCP question, that is of 16 marks. Part A of NCCP question. I am also writing on my computer screen. You will also write, but I'm not going to show you the answer right now. Part A is of 20 marks. This means you have 38 total minutes to do this question, right? So right now it's 3:18. I'll revert back to you all and we'll see my answer. What you need to do, you just keep on writing and make sure that you are saving those answers in your computer, laptops, or your screens, or somewhere in the external drives, so that at the end, when once we have completed the entire question, I will ask you all to kindly send me this question and I'll check it by within a day or two and give you the reviews. However, I'm also showing you my answer. So you have total 38 minutes to solve part A only. Once we are done with part A, I'll show you my answer. We'll move towards part B. Is it justifiable? Good to go with? I want every one of you to start solving this, please. करना ये सवाल पूरा में ताकि हो जाए. Okay. So first I'm showing you the answer. Sorry, first I'm showing the examiner's comment on this 1A, and then we'll move forward. Okay, so there is a generic comment on the examiner's point of view. The examiner report should be used in conjunction with the ACCS platform. These are the generic comments. Um, the exam consisted of 4 hours and technical part. Overall, the standard candidate answer resulted in one of the poorest. See, this was one of the poorest setting in SBL so far. One of the poorest setting in SBL so far. So this that is the reason why examiner have given a very detailed report in this specific exam. तुम्हारी तो नहीं लगाना ना. Okay, let's look at question number 1A. The executive board have become concerned about at negative coverage of about NCCP in their local press, as well as feedback from the staff and volunteers expressing concern about the direction and the direction the charity is taking. It is therefore seeking advice from you as to the most appropriate way forward. Prepare a report for the presentation to the board which assesses NCCP's internal and external stakeholders, which recommend appropriate way of managing them. Professional skill marks are available for demonstrating analysis skills in carefully considering how different stakeholders can be managed appropriately. Generally, this task was reasonably done because you were all able to identify that it is based on Menlo's matrix model. In terms of technicals, again, where you are gaining technical marks, the examiner says that you are about to lose the professional marks. Stronger candidate formulated an assessment approach and applied it to each stakeholder. Now, what do you mean by assessment approach? Stronger candidate identified why is it the case that I'm calling a candidate as a high power or low interest. Justification was the requirement of this indirectly. It says stronger candidate recognize that the influence of a stakeholder can be based on the contribution sorry, NCCP volunteer or could be impacted by the outcome of the NCCP's course participants. Stronger candidate use information from the exhibits. For example, exhibit 8, that is staff survey, to recommend how better manage the stakeholders' expectations. Other candidates approach the assessment by reference to the interest and power of the stakeholder to gain marks. The interest and power had to be, were we able to justify our answers? Were we able to identify it correctly that yes, Menlo matrix model is applied? So the first step was to identify if Menlo matrix model is applied or not. So yes, the examiner is saying you need to apply Menlo matrix model, but on the other hand, there should be justification of why power is high or low, why interest is high or low. Weaker answers were largely generic. For example, suggesting the KV Council have power high and high interest. That was something very obvious, right? The council used to have a high power and high interest with no justification for the assessment. This is something which I have identified right now, that you need to identify why is the power high and the interest is high as well. Some candidate wasted time in explaining what a stakeholder is. Now, this is where every one of you, I would want to give suggestion. Don't waste your time what stakeholder is. See, when I used to explain that there are two categories of stakeholder, primary and secondary, you're not going to write all those things. There are two categories of stakeholder, primary, secondary. In primary, we have two further categories. Now let's look at the primary stakeholders and secondary stakeholders. This is not a theoretical paper of inter-become that you are writing about all these factors. You don't need to waste time on identifying what stakeholders are. What do you mean by primary? You just need to pick up the stakeholders, apply the Menlo matrix model, justify it, and gain marks and go away. Move towards the next question. Some candidate wasted time in explaining the stakeholder is and the difference between internal and external stakeholder. Now, this is where they were losing marks, which was totally unnecessary. He is saying we don't want any sort of key weakness included. Now, you can have a self-evaluation on your answer. Were you able to write all these points, or were you able to justify these points, or is this weakness available in your answers as well? Key weaknesses included failure to formulate an assessment. Remember, Menlo matrix model is not an isolation model, and you are not going to write the Menlo matrix model in a way that okay, the power is high, the interest is low, done and dusted. No, every single statement should be justified. If you're writing the power is high, write why do you think that the power is high. If you're writing the interest is low, you need to justify why do you think that the interest is low. Failure to formulate an assessment approach, instead providing a generic discussion around the issue relating to each stakeholder. So you are not going to generate your lines on issues. Rather, you will generate your pointers on the basis of why do you think that the power is high or low, failing to justify the assessment. So no justification for why a stakeholder has higher, again, same point. Considering the executive board as a stakeholder that need to be considered, failing to recognize that they are the recipient of the board. Biggest mistake. Considering the executive board as a stakeholder. Whom are you writing this model for? Or whom are you writing this answer for? The executive board. And if you are considering the executive board as a stakeholder, this means that you are basically letting them know that you are wrong and it is because of you why the company is failing. You're not writing we are not writing against these executive stakeholders. We are writing for these executive stakeholders or the executive directors. So this is an answer. This is something which many of you must have done a blunder in. How many of you have written the executive stakeholder as your यहाँ तक बात ही नहीं गई. Again, trustees are affected, but it is talking about executive board, not the trustee. He's saying considering the executive board as a stakeholder that need to be considered failing. This means whenever you are writing or applying a model, you will not apply a model to the person on whom you are writing to. For example, if I am writing to this person, I will not apply this model on him. I'll apply this model on the people all around. But yes, if he wants a clear assessment of his own role as well as the role of other stakeholders, then you can write all the stakeholders to be included in that. मैंने तुम्हें क्या कहा था शुरू में? मैंने पहली बात ये कही थी. Right? Moving forward. So yes, you have to take a very independent viewpoint. Moving forward, recommending ways to manage each stakeholder in isolation. For example, suggesting NCCP volunteer should be kept informed with no specific explanation of what need to be informed. If you're writing that, okay, we are going for the strategy of low power and high interest, which means you need to keep them informed. But what sort of information will you be giving them?
about new courses or maybe relating to other sort of information. So we'll look into the answers as well, but these are some of the most important blunders. Now we are very much clear whenever we are applying such a stakeholder model, we will not be applying to the person for whom we are writing this question to. To score high professional marks, candidates needed to demonstrate analysis skills in considering how each stakeholder could be appropriately managed. Candidate who considered the current stakeholder relationship with the NCCP and identified the stakeholder need were able to recommend practical suggestions. This means we were asked about the suggestion on how to manage each stakeholder. Candidate who recommended ways of managing stakeholder in isolation scored low professional marks. So this means we were awarded professional marks for analysis skills. When we are analyzing and you want us to give recommendation, this means that we will give recommendation with a 360-degree view. Again, it's not just the analysis skills over here. We are being asked about the commercial acumen as well. Indirectly, he's also asking about the commercial acumen because he himself is saying that you cannot give recommendation on the basis of isolation. You will not give any sort of recommendation on isolated basis. You will give recommendation in a connected in a chain basis in which each stakeholder is connected with the other in some way or the other. So let's look at the answer. I hope so. You're going to find a good answer. Okay, so the format of the report begins in this way. The report is to the board of directors from a consultant, stakeholders and mission. Subject is the stakeholders and the mission. June 15, 2005. The report assesses NCCP's internal and external stakeholders and recommend how they should have been managed. It goes on to evaluate the NCCP's mission statement and assesses the source of competitive advantage. Now, one more thing. The number of students who are sitting in front of me, when I came back to you in order to see your laptop, one mistake that I was able to identify is long paragraphs for introduction. 2 lines for introduction. You will not be awarded any sort of extra mark for writing a long introduction. Rather, you're wasting your time. You will not be deducted marks on that. Trust me, the examiner is not going to deduct mark on long introduction. But I've seen your answer. I guess you have written a long introduction. इसमें तो मैंने किसी का देखा था. Okay, so long introduction. Okay, good. Long introduction means that you are losing your time, not your marks, but your time, right? And ultimately, losing your time means losing your marks. Okay, so it says the first thing that I am going to go through is the stakeholder management staff. The board should keep employee and volunteers informed about the plan for the future. It will be preferably important to explain and sell new strategies such as launching a new art course which are at odds with staff current understanding of the NCCP's mission. Where possible, they should also be consulted to ensure that they retain a sense of involvement and participation. The survey results suggest that the individual power has reduced over the year as staff now need to seek permission from the managers rather than make their own decisions. However, it sounds like there is a strong team culture at NCCP with individuals working very effectively together. This increases their collective power, especially given the relatively small number of people involved, 12 employees, and not on the executive board. This is a very, very well written part. Donors. Now, what do you mean by donors? Corporate donors have high power on average. Each donation represents 3.5% of the NCCP's income. Now, tell me one thing. Were you able to calculate this figure? Any one of you have calculated this figure of donating or showing that each donor is representing 3.5% of the total NCCP's income? Now, a best way of writing an answer in such a scenario when we are receiving income from 3 to 4 sources is to cumulatively find out that okay, we are receiving 4% of the income from corporate donors, we are receiving 8% from the income from the private donors, we are receiving 10% from the income from the council. So it will give a very clear objective of who is having a high power or high interest in the company's premises. Now, one more thing. If the percentage of donation is high from a particular stakeholder, in accordance with the total income, it is not showcasing excessive power, rather it is showcasing excessive interest. Because you'll be more interest. See, for example, shareholders of the company, their total investment constitute 49% of the overall shareholders' equity or the overall equity of the company. So 49% is a big number. But do they have high power? But do they have high interest? Yes. So remember, whenever you are being given with a scenario in which there are more than one sources of income, the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to cumulatively calculate the percentage of income from every source in regard with the overall income of the company or the trust. This is going to help you in formulating your answer. Is it clear to everyone? So, corporate donors have high power. On average, each donation represents 3.5% of NCCP's total income. Level of interest in NCCP may vary. The corporate donors have some sort of personal link to NCCP, but in light of the media report, there is an in light of this exhibit, in light of the media, you will use this sentence again and again and again and again in your answers. It is going to help you to formulate a good answer. So in light of the media, whenever the media report is given, whenever the board minutes are given, you will write in light of the board minutes, in light of the media report, in light of a negative press release, in light of the risk register to give the reference. And this is how you're going to connect the question with your answer. So in light of the media report, there is an indication that they are also taking keener interest in how their donation are being used. NCCP should therefore keep corporate donors satisfied by demonstrating good corporate governance. Personal donors are likely to have high interest. Now, I have just kept a category of donors. Many of you might have decided to divide the donors category into 3 to 4 headings. No, but that specifically will showcase a good result. It will show a good result, but trust me over the fact you are going to lack in some way or the other in terms of time. So it's better to keep all the donor organizations together. Personal donors are likely to be of high interest in the NCCP and they have made a personal choice to donate money. At the same time, the average personal donation is $24 is not significant. The total value of the personal donation over a year is less than one average corporate donation. It's a very, very unique and a very well versed answer. Along with this, we have identified, we have linked some of the information in some way or the other. Over here, I have identified the NCCP donation of corporate donors in the terms of percentage, and I'm over here depicting that only 24% is representing only 3.5% is representing only one donation from the corporate donors. Then you can have the other way around as well, or you can connect this thing to other form of donors as well. For example, you can connect this to the community council donors if you feel like that there is a connection between the two types of donors. Again, it says the total value of all personal donation over a year is less than one average corporate donation. Personal donors should still be kept informed about NCCP, but they will be given less priority. Don't write that they are no more or we need to give them minimal efforts. See, every single donor is the part of the company, and every single donor can be effective in some way or the other. Never consider your customer to be a small or a large one. He is your customer. You need to give them information. But over here, it seems that he is using the strategy of low power and sorry, the strategy of low power and high interest. This means the keep informed, if you look at the Mendel's matrix model, keep informed falls in the category of low power and high interest. Kibli Council is a key player. Why is he saying it's a key player? You all have identified it correctly that he has high power and high interest. We will need to engage with closely. The council provides 31% of the NCCP's funding. Were you able to identify this figure? None of you. And faced with its own budgetary restriction is taking a much closer interest in the recipients of its funding behavior. NCP must therefore ensure that it complies with any funding requirement, each if they do not see it as priority. For example, NCCP need to run business skill courses to secure its funding, even though they require high subsidy and are not well attended. So how was I able to identify that it was not well attended? Due to the number of courses that are being sold, and how was I able to identify that this specific course is not generating much amount of revenue due to the so you were using that is the reason why I identified that you need to figure out, you need to highlight those figures in green if there is a positive contribution, you need to highlight those figures in pink if there is a negative contribution. Is it clear to every one of you? Okay. Board of Trustee. So Board of Trustee says the Board of Trustee is also key player. It was set up by Richard Tempest to oversee the executive board and therefore has high in power and high interest. See, this is the question that you were asking. Can there be two people having high power? So you can see the council is having high power. The Board of Trustees are also having high power and high interest. In the way the charity is being run, the executive board therefore need to ensure that it can demonstrate how its action are supporting the NCCP's mission and objective. Now, I didn't have much information about this, so this is the entire thing that I can write about Board of Trustees, and it was very well written. Then we have the participants. Then we have the participants, course participants, not trivially inhabitants who attended an NCCP course are likely to have a significant level of interest in the NCCP's current and future course offering, but low power individually to influence the NCCP's behavior. Although NCCPs does not need to meet every request from the course participant, it should be sensible to seek feedback from the group as a whole as to what damage might not be in the future courses. Again, last but not the least, the North Kemley community, members of the North Tivoli community who do not fall into the category above are likely to have low power to influence NCCP behavior, and based on the fact that they are not currently involved with the charity, relatively low interest. Is it true? Although minimal efforts would normally be required for the stakeholder group, although minimal effort would normally be required for the stakeholder group, the recent media coverage means that this would be appropriate to keep the wider community informed about the NCCP plans in order to protect the NCCP. This is the methodology or way of writing an answer. Now, let's just quickly move towards part B so that we can let's just quickly move towards part B. So, okay, let me read the requirement for part B. It says, now part B is comparatively easier. Critically assesses NCCP's sources of competitive advantage. Professional skill marks are available for demonstrating evaluation skills in assessing NCCP's most important source of competitive advantage. This question comprises of 14 marks. I'm giving you 22 minutes to solve this question, and then I'll show my answer, and then we'll move towards the examiner comment of this question. It's a very competitively easier. Now, what you can do is, if you don't want to write the entire answer, what you can do is the best part would be that if you write the entire answer right now in front of me, so that will be a very time barred exercise. But if you don't want to write, because after 10 minutes I'll be showing you, or after 15 minutes I'll be showing you my answer. So what you can do is you can write some of the pointers and always reconcile that if you have written those pointers or not. So 15 minutes and then I'm showing you my answer.
Now, let me show you the answer for part two. I hope so. You all must have had good break in between. So let's see the answer for part two. Part two, one thing keep in your mind: you don't need to make two different formats for each part. You can write within one format, and you can conclude the format in this way. Like for example, I've written with yours sincerely after part B. So only one format for the specific one complete answer. So over here, I have taken some headings, as I have already told you that headings will give you some competitive advantage in comparison to the other formats. It says sources of competitive advantage, training courses. NCCP provided opportunity for personal and community growth with a particular focus on training so that the community of Kivli can gain employment. Now, you can even add more stuff in this, but as the question was of around 10 marks, I guess 12 marks, 14 marks, as the question was of around 14 marks. So, the minimal amount of information that I can write, I've written over here. Cost effective course. Now, remember, what factors am I identifying? I'm identifying the key performance indicator that is a critical success factor for an organization. So the first factor is the training courses. The second factor relates to the cost effective course. Education has always been in the heart of NCCP's mission, and it offers all of its courses at significantly lower fees to the people of North Kivli so that it can be affordable for them as it is already economically and socially deprived. We were asked only to identify, not to make these pointers in regard with some solutions, neither to justify how this competitive advantage is going to be undertaken. This is critical assessment. Remember, competitive edge can never be assessed on the other way around. Competitive edge means competitive edge. Competitive edge will not include the things that we are not doing good, right? So critical assessment means how is that a competitive edge and for whom it will be an advantageous situation, right? Moving forward, it says, but evaluation skill, definitely I am using evaluation skill. Evaluation skills mean justification. It will not go in the other way around, that for example, if the question is saying show competitive edge, so you are writing the answer, okay, this is a competitive edge, but this will also increase cost, or this is a competitive edge, but if others also start making such specific let's suppose edges in their organization, they will also gain the advantageous situation. Competitive edge itself is a positive word. You have to keep the entire tone of your answer to be very much positive. Okay. Organization skill. Despite being a charity organization, NCCP has set up a board of directors with clear distinctive roles and CEO who has commercial experience, thus giving it an edge over the charities by having structured board, and the CEO will bring his expertise to make NCCP more successful. Now again, there was one viewpoint given by the CEO. It was one individual's viewpoint that CEO has a commercial aspect. You are going to give a generic viewpoint, not a specific viewpoint of an individual. Although that viewpoint was correct, but bringing an individual from the commercial market will also have some positive impact. And the positive impact will be that they know the tactics of marketing. They know the tactics of marketing their own commercial aspects of the organization. Although it is not a profit generating model, but still if we use their expertise, we can still generate some amount of profitability in this, or some amount of acceptability in this regard. Yes. खराब थोड़ी है, commercial है. Competitive edge means competitive edge. आगे जाके एक क्वेश्चन आएगा, उसमें दे आर आस्किंग दैट शुड वी अडॉप्ट द सीईओ एज अ कमर्शियल objective or not, तो वहां भी you will write that okay, now the CEO is presenting a commercial viewpoint, this is yes, but over here competitive edge means competitive edge, right? Clear to every one of you? Hmm. Okay, moving forward, it says organizational skills. Despite being a charity, NCCP has to set up a board of directors with clear distinctive roles and CEO who has commercial experience, thus giving it an edge over the other charities. By having a structured board and CEO who bring experience or expertise to make NCCP more successful. You are identifying the competitive advantage of every single company, of every single part of the company. Operating effectiveness as the fee of the course has not been increased. Now, were you able to identify this advantage, that the fee of the course is not being increased for the past 3 years, and there are no, spelling of there is not correct, and there are no other cost of courses. This directly implies that NCCP managed to offer affordable courses to the people of north of Kivli without any increment and also not increasing its cost significantly, thus making the cost effective charity. How many points have I written over here? 7 points. This means 2 marks. My inclusion of 7 points, this means 2 marks, and the amount of information that was required, it's not less. Yes, you can write more, but looking at the time constraint, I have written a perfect answer. 14 marks, 2 marks per point. This means now there might be some candidates writing 4 competitive advantage and writing 2 paragraph in each competitive advantage. The examiner is of the view that you can even do this stuff, but make sure that you have ample amount of information written in it. So examiner is least concerned how many headings are you going to make. Examiner needs 7 advantages. Now you can even connect some of the advantages with one or the other. For example, the advantage that I've given over here, you could have operating effectiveness could have been written in the cost effective courses as well, because we are operating it effectively. That is the reason that cost of the courses are not being increased. So you can even connect 4 to 5 different advantages, but still examiner is least concerned how many headings you are making. Examiner is just concerned with the fact that how many advantages have you written over here. Again, it says donors, council funding and the contribution of generous donors of Kivili enabled NCCP to raise fund at generous amount from which they can bear all their expenses so that the operation of NCCP can be run smoothly. Donor is also an advantage for the company because finding donors is something which is the most difficult task for any philanthropist organization.
Shada@1710.
Right? Then if I move forward, it says hmm, hmm, hmm. competitors. NCCP does not have any rivalry charity. Any rivalry charity, and thus making the only charity to receive fund from the people of the community, the corporate body, and Kiviligan. Now, this is something which I have assumed because there was no information given in regard with the competitors of this company. Am I going to get good marks in this? Okay. ED and Chipa have been competitive rival throughout the tenure. The amount of charity they receive, they are doing different types of stunts in order to receive more charity in comparison to the other charitable organizations. See, you giving charity to a specific organization because you have a specific theme in your mind that why you are giving charity to. For example, why do they showcase those individuals who are underprivileged part of the society so that they can receive charity in comparison to the other individual? Why do they show the cancer individuals? Why do they show this young individuals suffering from some dire diseases? Due to the fact that they need to showcase you that we are investing into such opportunities and your investment will create a better object or better life for these individuals. So there is a competitive rivalry among charitable organization until unless the charitable organization is a government owned charity, right? Let's look at the comment of examiner for this specific answer. Critically assess NCCP's sources of competitive advantage. Professional marks are available for demonstrating evaluation skills and assessing NCCP's most important source of competitive advantage. Over here it says, okay, over here it says the overall standard of answer to this task was quite disappointing. The question requirement clearly asks for critical assessment of NCCP's sources of competitive advantage. To evaluate sources of competitive advantage, candidate could have referred back to question number 1A to consider the relationship of NCCP has with the stakeholders. Many candidates provided a general description of NCCP resources or listed NCCP and weaknesses. Were you asked to identify the weakness of NCCP? Most candidates ignored critical part of giving the critical assessment, choosing not to include any critical view in the assessment and secured low marks on the task. Stronger candidate identify the benefit of NCCP courses provided, the advantage that I have taken into account. Delivering a product that the participants need and offering real value due to the subsidies, going to evaluate the issue in the case that would impact these competitive advantage in the future. Key weaknesses included failure to recognize what NCCPs apart from other participant chooses. What set NCCP? You need to recognize. This means that the headings that I have written, students were failing to recognize those headings or identify those headings. Reproducing material from the case without explaining it. It merely means copy paste. Provide a source of competitive advantage, failing to identify the factor that would lead NCCP's competitive advantage being compromised. People were writing generic answers and not the competitive advantages that were identified. Making assumptions about what might happen if the competitive advantage, which is not evidence in the case. For example, another charity being established in Kimberley. So I have taken the competitive advantage that there is no charity, but the students or the candidates, what they were writing is, what will happen if there is another charity in the NCCP's question, and how will the NCCP? So they started using their skepticism skills by saying that what will happen if the NCCP is going to have another competitor in the market. Again, to secure or to score high professional skill marks, candidate needed to present balanced evaluation. The requirement to be critically indicate that the consideration of the difficulties or problem with the source of competitive advantage is required. Stronger candidate, those scoring quite well or very well, were those that included a critical evaluation enabling the board to make informed decision on the most appropriate way forward for NCCP. Weaker candidate ignored the critical evaluation completely, and those that did secured little or very low marks. So weaker candidate were not able to secure were not able to secure good marks. Is it clear to everyone? Now, yes, Osama.
Sir, don't you think that the answer you have provided was like fully general and it was not critically discussed, such as there was two programs that the NCCP was offering, but the seats were full. So we can say that it is going to disadvantage our competitiveness because
Yes,
we can
that
introduce
you
online
can
platform.
include that specific thing, but for that you obviously need to have more competitive advantages available. You can still include that point. See, it's not a comprehensive or a complete answer. It's just an answer that I think should have been the part of the examination question. But still, if you feel that there are other pointers that can be included, yes, you can include those pointers. And if you include better pointers, it will also help you in gaining some good marks. Secondly, the answer that I've written is not generic. Basically, the answer that I've written is more specific to the competitive advantage. And yes, if you want, you can critically evaluate it more, or if you want, you can have more understanding of the critical evaluation. But still, in order to gain some good 80-70% marks, the answer that I've shown you is quite appropriate one, right? Now let's just quickly move towards the requirement number two and the task number two. The new CEO is concerned that the executive board is not sufficiently proactive in managing the risk and implementing the control, and is therefore neglecting its duties and CCP stakeholder. He has put risk management at the top of the agenda for the next executive board meeting and has asked you to help them to prepare the next board meeting. Prepare briefing note for the CEO to share with the board, which evaluate the executive board approach to risk management, recommend and recommend how it could be improved. So what you are going to write is, there are two parts of this requirement: weakness in the risk management, in the board's approach to risk management. It is not the weakness of risk management, it is the board approach to risk management, and recommend how it could be improved and improvement strategies. Personal professional skill marks are available for demonstrating commercial communication skill and adopting an appropriate tone which is easily understood by the board members. Is it clear? Okay, so this time you're not writing a full answer. This time what I want is, I'm giving you 5 minutes. Just write some pointers and the solutions. I'm giving you 5 to 6 minutes. Start doing this. Okay, so let's discuss this answer now. I'm showing it in front of you. Okay, now this answer is specifically from ACCA, right? Because this is a very well written answer. So I wanted to show you this answer and then we'll move towards the ACCA's comment. Evaluation of the current risk management process. It is encouraged. Just wait for 2 minutes for Azan and then we'll resume.
Okay, so let's move forward. Evaluation of current risk management process. It is encouraging that the executive board undertook a thorough risk identification exercise which lasted for a full day and involved relevant operational staff. However, the thoroughness of this exercise is undermined by the fact that it has been treated as one of project which is now completed. Instead, risk identity, see, it was considered to be a one-off project, and any risk assessment project is not one-off. It is generally a project which is an ongoing project. If you try to have a risk assessment on a one-off, or let's suppose on one individual day basis, then that specifically is not a risk assessment. Rather, it would be a project which is done just for the purpose of documentation, right? Moving forward, it says, uh, however, the thoroughness of this exercise is undermined by the fact that it has treated as one of project which is now completed. Instead, risk identification should be a permanent and an ongoing exercise. The suggestion that the exercise will be repeated at some point in the future is too vague. It will be repeated at some point in the future. There should be a proper scheduling of how the risk assessment exercise is being undertaken. The suggestion that the exercise will be repeated at some point in the future is too vague. Having identified a large number of risks, there has been no attempt to assess them. This makes it very difficult to prioritize the most important risks, especially given that the list runs to 150 items requiring investigation. It would be appropriate to estimate the likelihood and impact of each risk and record this on a risk register. These factors which can be given in numerical ranking if necessary. That is what I always keep on saying, that every risk assessment should be on the base of quantitative terminologies. Because once you start numbering the risk, then you can prioritize that risk, as well as you can have control on the basis of the priority that you have identified. So the most occurring risk, or the risk having the biggest impact, should be prioritized on the first. Then it says, will allow executive board to address the most serious risk first. Without effective risk assessment, the risk planning become much harder. The challenge of sharing 150 risks between the 4 members of the executive board is compounded by the 2-week deadline to identify and implement an appropriate action. Tell me one thing, 150 risks, that to be divided between 4 members of the board, and they need a proper control strategy within 2 weeks, is something which is humanly impossible. There is a risk that in an attempt to hit the deadline, the director do not consider the full range of the risk management strategy. Remember, it is not about the specific risk, it was about the risk management strategies. Those individuals who wrote specific risk and their control measurement will be awarded 0 marks. It was about risk management strategies, not about the specific risk and its control. On they do not implement them as effectively as they should. Finally, even if the control were sufficient, NCCP risk can change dramatically and without warning. Historically, CC criteria have changed annually, and this trend is expected to continue. It is highly unlikely that the board action identified on the current register would be sufficient to deal with the risk. There were only 2 types of risk. There were only 2 types of risk given in the risk register. And we had already identified that the control plans of those risks, the implementation policies of those risks were not justifiable. However, it says,
action to improve the risk management process, risk assessment should be added in the risk register to form the likelihood and impact column. A further column should be added to the risk register to identify when the risk should be reviewed, which date will the risk be reviewed, likelihood of the risk, probability of the risk. These three columns should be included in the risk register and should be taken with all heart and soul. However, volatile risks such as cybersecurity will need to be reviewed much more often in order to ensure that the executive board is meeting its corporate responsibility. It would be appropriate to review the risk. Now let's look at the comment of examiner, and after that we will be in a position to identify if we were correct or not. The new CEO is concerned that the executive board is not being sufficiently proactive in managing. So we have gone through this. I'm directly coming to the comment. This task was generally not well answered. Now I can, without reading the comment, I can tell you the reason. Many of you must have identified singular risk and their risk management strategies and a critical evaluation on the risk management strategy based on individual risk and recommending control based on individual risk. Till now, I have not yet shown you any sort of individual risk being identified in question number 2A. We have talked about the general risk management strategies and the generic point of view of controls. Obviously, over here the question requirements states, see, evaluate the executive board approach to risk management. If it would have asked you to identify individual risk, then the requirement would be evaluate the board's strategy relating to the risk and recommend the impact and the control of the above stated risk management strategy. And one more hint is given. How can you identify, how can you do a 15 marks question just on the basis of two risks being identified? There were only two risks given in the risk register. तो तुमने निकाल लिया ना, वो तो एक अलग कहानी. There were only two risks from the exhibit which was very relevant to it. So how can you make a 15-mark question on the basis of that two risks? So it was a very generic form of question, and you need to identify the risk management strategy rather than going for individual. See, again, this is one of the worst attempted paper in the history of SBL. The reason is that because it was not a generic and it was not a paper which could have been attempted by many of you. So that is the reason why the examiner is saying that majority of them were not able to clear this exam. Again, here it is stated that the executive board is not proactive and therefore neglecting its duties to NCCP stakeholder. This should have been the focus of the candidate's answer. Yet, relatively few candidates focus on the board duty. Choosing to focus on the specific risk contained in the exhibit, stronger candidate evaluated that the overall approach and identify weakness relevant to the NCCP rather than a generic observation and included positive evaluation. For example, creating risk register was a positive first step to active risk management. This was the positive step. You need to create a risk register which is comprehensive enough to identify risk, to identify the likelihood, and to create the control in regard with the risks that have been identified, along with proper achievable deadlines and dividing the risk in accordance with whatever the risk symptoms can be identified to the individual or the individual form of direction. Key weakness included focusing on the two risks included in the now. This is the answer that I would want you all to kindly go through. Focusing on the two risks included in the extract of NCCP risk register, providing in-depth discussion on those two risks and less or no discussion of overall approach. Majority of the individuals, when doing this question, they were only able to identify those two risks and they started writing on the risks that were given in the risk register. See, this is one of the best way of communicating with your examiner. Examiner is letting you know what requirement is examiner right now asking for you? Failing to demonstrate understanding of the charitable focus and the size of NCCP. For example, recommending a risk committee. How the hell can you recommend a risk committee in a charitable organization? And that too with a small size. And this means that you are recommending the board to go for the executive and non-executive director, make all four committees in, they don't have their financial background, they don't have their financial muscles in order to, finance their internal sources or in order to finance their own products. And now they are going to contribute or they're going to add on a cost objective of including a risk committee within the board's ambit. This is not humanly possible. So you should not have suggested to bring a board committee instead in order to identify the risk and manage it effectively. Repeating information from exhibit number 5 without adding any valuation. Again, this is a mere hint that no more copy paste. Moving forward, making unnecessary point. For example, curing whether all relevant risks were covered when the risk category should seem to be comprehensive. Some candidates spend too long discussing other risks that should be included in the risk. Now, when you saw two risks and in the above discussion, it was written that there are 150 risks. The candidate started writing where are 148 risks. Now, the other 148 risks are not being given. What other 148 risks must have been identified by the management team? What are the 148 risks? We should have been told about that, those 148 risks. Come on down. You do not need to give such suggestions. There are 150 risks. So there are 150 risks. He is not giving you all of them. He's just identifying this is how we have made a risk register. Again, failing to recognize that NCCP needed to consider the impact and likelihood of each risk in order to prioritize the 150 risks identified, focusing on generic recommendation. For example, the use of a TARA model framework, see, without showing how it can be applied. देखिए, you can write that the company should have used a TARA model framework in order to reduce the risk, and all those risks who are identified with low likelihood and low probability should be prioritized on the lower side of the risk assessment, and these risks may be avoided because these are inherent risks. However, all those risks that fall under the category of transference, the company should have made such policy of either ensuring those risks or any other transference of the risk that can reduce the risk to an acceptable level. You can write that, okay, company should adopt TARA model, but just giving a viewpoint that, okay, company should have adopted the TARA model will not let you gain some good marks. Again, candidate who achieved high professional skill marks very well or quite well demonstrated good communication skill in presenting briefing note that adopted a suitably professional tone which was tactful without being judgmental and presented a clear specific recommendation on how the board's overall approach to risk management could be improved. Candidate who scored lower marks, now this is the point of concern for me, on the professionalism did so due to demonstrating poor communication skills and or because they did not present clear improvement action to the board. What could have been the improvement actions? The improvement actions were to include the risk likelihood, to include the probability, assess the risk according to certain numbers. All risk assessments should be dealt very carefully. The individuals who are made responsible for the risk, they should be given in totality, they should be given less number of risks to deal with first, and then the remaining risk that is lower side of the probability should be done afterward. There should be ample amount of time to be given to these individuals in order to make or prepare proper strategies, because when the directors are going to reach near the deadlines, they are not going to go for good risk assessment strategy, rather they will be going for some documentation purpose of risk management or assessment strategies. This is how the answer should have been written. Candidates should be careful to the tone in which they present their answer, as some candidates phrase their answer to this task in what would be considered as highly inappropriate tone. Now look at the tone that the examiner is asking. See, this is something which I have been talking about in my regular classes. For example, making statement such as the board have to date between appealing in their approaches to risk management. Now, what do you mean by this line? The board have to date between appealing in their approach to risk management is a very unprofessional approach and is very much discouraged in SBL. What do you mean by this line? Yes, any one of you. Read it carefully. Anyone can please explain me the meaning of this line? The board have to date between appelling, sorry, they'd been appelling in their approach to risk management. The board have to date been appelling in their approach to risk management. What do you mean by सर्च करें बताइए क्या मतलब होता है निकाल tell me what do you mean by appelling it means that the both have to date between very bad or awful in their approach of risk. This means that the board were very professional or unexperienced in terms of risk management. See, if the question says that we have identified CEO of the company into some dubious activities, it does not mean that you start giving a suggestion to remove CEO. It does not mean that you start giving a suggestion, okay, the CEO seems to be into a fraudulent situation, so throw him away or make sure that the CEO of the company is not leaving. I have even read a comment of a student saying, make sure that the CEO, I don't know how come they make such comment, they feel like there is a political party that's committing a corruption activity and running out of the country. I have even seen a comment saying, make sure that the CEO of the company is not leaving the country until legal proceedings is being done. Where the hell did this legal proceeding came from? There is a reason why 50% of the students are failing. I got a comment from a student who said that make sure that the CEO of the until now and the question required you to identify some of the dubious activities of CEO of the company. He was able to identify, and in conclusion, he said that there should be a legal proceeding on the CEO of the company to be penalized and CEO नहीं है तुम्हारे बाप का नौकर to be penalized and held behind the bars, and also make sure that the CEO of the company do not leave the country's premises until unless the legal proceeding has been completed. This is how you lose your marks. So I hope so. It's now very much clear to you. Let's do another question. One more question. Let's just quickly go through one more singular question and then we'll move forward. Identify the external. Last question. Then I'm going to let you guys leave. I hope so that this is a session which basically help you, in identifying more and more mistakes. Right? Identify external stakeholders with an interest in NCCP's internal control and justify why information on internal control should be shared with them. Now, this is one of my favorite questions. I would want you all to kindly write at least some pointers. We are going to call it a day off by most probably by 6:15 or 6:20. At the end, I'll just be needing your 5 minutes in order to, talk to you for the last time after today's class. And then, okay, please start doing
at least invest your 5 to 6 minutes on this question so that we can identify that what are the points that we need to write. Please do this. Yes. नहीं समझा नहीं क्या कह रहे तो अब okay, so let's start a bit. Let's start discussing the part two. of question number 2B. Again, I'm showing you the ACCA's answer because this is a very well drafted answer, so it will give you a better insight of why the ACCA. Okay, so over here it says just a minute. Okay, over here it says although the executive board of NCCP is responsible for identifying risk and developing suitable internal controls, other stakeholders will have an interest in these controls, and it is often appropriate and sometimes compulsory for them to be kept informed. Government department. Now, what we need, what was the requirement of this question? Why should we give the internal control information to the department outside outside our company? That is, why should we give the internal control information to the external stakeholders of the company? So it says government department. Some of the NCCP internal control addresses fundamental aspects of safety and privacy. Now, how are you going to make the basis of this question? See, the question is why should we give the information? So first, what information are you going to make available for a particular external stakeholder? Number one. First part of the paragraph should be what information will you be making available? Number two, why are you making that information available to the individual? This means justification. Why are you making this information to be made available? Justification. And number three, you should make information available to external stakeholder regarding internal control only for those internal control for which you can justify that the internal controls are working effectively. Do you get my point? For example, if I am making this information available for the government department, why should we make this information available to the government department? Because of health and safety concerns. Now, what information are we making it available so that the legal obligation can be reduced? And we are doing a great job in this. Only then will this information be of relevant use for our company and be into our favor. Is it good? Government department? Sorry? दिया होता ना health and safety अभी पढ़ते हैं. Let's look at this. Some of the NCCP's internal control addresses fundamental aspects of safety and privacy. An NCCP may have a legal obligation to share information about this with the relevant authority. For example, government bodies may demand evidence of appropriate control in the field of health and safety or data protection. It was a data. See, you are receiving confidential data on the behalf of your client. Now, that specific confidential data should only be used for your own purpose or for the purpose when the law is requiring you to communicate with them. So, yes, failure to comply with these may demand, these demands could have serious legal repercussions. So, it means that the first part, it means that the first part of the scenario, identify. The first thing is you need to identify which department are you making this information available to. Second thing, what information is relevant for this department? Relating to internal control. If not identified, what could be the legal repercussions or what could be the impact? Three parts in every single heading. Data protection to था ना. Cyber security means data protection. Safety and privacy. Basically, this is a generic word, but over here I have identified safety and privacy or data protection. but every single company who is utilizing the data for the purpose of making the every information is collecting the data for the purpose of increasing the number of sales. They are legally complied, irrespective of the fact that there is a law or not, to provide information to the bodies that are governing this specific type of industry. Her industry should provide this data, collecting data. If we are collecting data from the student's point of view, then we are liable to provide this data to the government so that we can identify, justify that the data collection is wholly for the purpose of getting the student and not to sell this data to any other specific body, right? Then we have the CC. NCCPs rely on CC for approximately 30% of the total annual income. The executive board would therefore be wise to comply with any request from the council for information about the internal controls, which may also arise as part of its compliance condition. While NCCP has no legal obligation to share this information, failure to do this is highly likely to result in funding being. Now, there is no legal obligation to provide information to this authority, but if you fail not to comply to this requirement or not to provide any sort of information, they might reduce their funding. In every situation, it is not a legal compulsion. In this situation, it was a legal duty. It was implied to be a legal duty. In this situation, it is a strategic duty. Otherwise, the funding is going to decrease or deteriorate substantially. दिखाएंगे? Hmm. You can add that point as well. Donors. Okay. So, donors. Corporate and personal donation from another 30% of NCCP's income due to okay. So donors, bus. Donors, corporate and personal donation from another 30% of NCCP's income due to some high-profile cases of charity misappropriating funds. There is an increased interest in the way donations are being managed. Again, while such donors are unlikely to demand the level of detail which the council is seeking, it would be appropriate for NCCP to share general information about how it makes effective use of the asset which has been entrusted with them. So this means that if the donors are donating, then the donors need to know what controls and what investment strategies are you using, and are the investment strategy generating the basic aim of the philanthropist organization or not. Again, course participants. Participants who attend NCCP's course benefit from the subsidies, education. However, they will also be interested in the controls surrounding the course. For example, they may be concerned about how their personal information is used, whether it is kept confidential and whether it is used for other marketing purposes. Again, the same as I have told you right now, we are gathering information from the student's perspective. So what basic need is there for such an information? Then last but not the least, local community. NCCP is clearly well established in the local community. It has a reputation to maintain even among those who are not current participants or donors. It would therefore be appropriate to reinforce this reputation brand by demonstrating good stewardship on the part of executive board. In the modern business environment, shareholder would expect to receive an annual risk report from the board of directors as part of the corporate governance. Yes, there is a legal requirement to provide this report. Although NCCP does not have shareholders, it would be appropriate for the board to publish an annual risk report as good practice. Again, a generic answer. Yes, please. वो वैसे डोनर में आएगा, डोनर में आएगा, ठीक है. Where I cannot find specific information, I can go for generic answers, right? Okay, so I hope so. It was a great session for you all, and आप लोग रुक जाएं. It was a great session for you all, and I hope so that you have a great paper ahead. One more thing is that I'll be sharing some of the most important stuff with you during the remaining 6 to 7 days, and I hope so. Just keep on practicing. Send me your answers, and inshallah I'll be correcting them all. So thank you so much to every one of you who have joined. What's next? Nothing. And goodbye from my side and best of luck.